Our guests today are BonTempo and Margaret Myatt, two of the three candidates running for the two available seats as trustees, the Board of Trustees for the Milford Town Library. Welcome, Marco. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So anyway, I guess we'll ask the people.
You start. Tell us why you want to be a trustee.
Because I'm very fond of the library. I'm there 2, 3, 4 times a week. I grew up frequenting the library. Got my first library card here in Milford when I was 6 years old. I was there Saturday, I was there yesterday, I'll be there tomorrow night, I'll be there again this week. It's just a wonderful place. I'm always impressed. Whenever I go there, the staff is incredibly polite and professional. I'm always impressed by the number of patrons that are there utilizing the services and the resources. You can go there on any afternoon and you'll have students that are studying, you'll have professionals that are doing some type of research, have people utilizing the magazines and the newspapers, people on the computers. Everyone's there and they're trying to better themselves. They're working to do something, and it's just a wonderful environment. That's
now,
why
do you go there
it.
for pleasure and business, or different?
For both.
Both? Okay.
I travel quite a bit because of my job. If I'm out of state or out in Western Mass, rather than traveling all the way back to my office, I just started working in Littleton. I'll stop in at the library and get work done because they have Wi-Fi. They just
Everything
bring
you need.
Exactly,
And it's
copier,
quiet.
the whole 9 yards. So that, and but primarily for selfish reasons, I love the CW Mars system because you get access to so many other libraries, public and
I
private.
actually order all my reading off that
Yeah,
network and
yeah.
then just pick it up.
Yeah, I'm a music nut, so I'm just
really?
I'm constantly ordering CDs. What I do with those CDs?
Well, that's a whole other story. Now, why are you running?
Well, I would say ditto on many of the points that Marco made. I love the library. I'm an avid public library supporter. I've only been in Milford for 35 years. When I was a kid and as a young adult, when we moved around, I almost had a library card collection because any time I'd move to a town, the first thing I'd do is get a library card. I even have one from Juneau, Alaska. How about that? Wow. That goes back to 1978. When we moved to Milford, we liked the tennis courts and we knew that the new library was coming in. So that kind of sealed the deal and said that this is going to be a great town to be in. Avid user there when I worked. I'm retired now. I would be there even 2 or 3 times a week. Now I feel like I'm there every day because I'm just moving material through my house between DVDs, books, music as well, not as much as music. And now my big draw is the jigsaw puzzles. So they're in the corner and there's young people and older people like me working on them. I really want to support the library. I want to make life easier for the staff to deliver programs and materials. I like the democratic process, the legislative process. I can see myself going to Legislative Day, which was on March 4th. I was previously a library trustee from 1998 to 2007.
So you did serve 3 terms.
3 terms. And I was able to go to several legislative days. Those are in Beacon Hill when you have coffee and snacks and you get to meet the legislators and you go to their offices and you say you need to support your library. Mine in particular, but say also statewide.
Now, didn't they just have one of those actually at the Milford Town Library?
They did. Well, there's 2 different things. One is the legislative day on Beacon Hill.
Right, this was more area librarians coming to meet legislators in the library.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
So the legislative day on Beacon Hill was March 4th. If I was a library trustee on that day, I would have been there.
Just curious, do you know if any of them went?
No, Sorry?
Did any of the current trustees go?
No, that's my
What a shame.
understanding. So it was an opportunity missed. And what you're talking about, I think, is called the legislative breakfast.
Right.
And there's maybe one every month or two in the
Well,
region, in the CW
I
Mars
said,
region.
by the way, what a shame, because Milford's own Brian Murray is now on the House Library Committee.
Yes, and at the recent forum given at the Crystal Room, I talked with Brian, and he said, "Oh, we're going to have a great opportunity to work together if you get elected," because
And he's co-chair of that committee now.
he's very supportive of the libraries. I do get a kick out of legislators, getting things done, because if we can get money outside of town, then we're not battling our own departments. I mean, we want all of the departments in Milford to be successful. So if we take from, it's like taking from Peter to pay Paul, and I don't want to do that within Milford.
Although the former Finance Committee chair took issue at the recent Citizens from Milford debate when you and another candidate said money is a big issue. And he said, "But we've always given you what you wanted." But what he didn't point out is within the constraints of the budget.
Yes, yeah, no, I mean, it's a difficult battle. Yeah, they've been as supportive as they possibly can be, depending on what the tax revenues are that year. And in bad years, it's a tougher battle.
Marco,
It's been a
sorry to
steady,
be
I'm sorry, it's been a steady
interrupted.
stream of bad years. I think
No.
the high water mark for funding was like 2002, and then since then it's been about a 43% reduction
Yeah.
for the libraries. The total library budget for the state of Massachusetts is 0.06% of the state budget, I
Yeah.
believe.
I was going to say,
Something
it's a
along that
pittance. I
line.
was going to sarcastically say that much, but Marco, as an avid user, are there specific things you'd like to accomplish as a trustee? Are there things the library isn't doing you'd like it to see?
I would like to see an expansion of some of the services. I mentioned earlier when I'm there and I see people working. One of the things I often see is I'll see tutoring going on. English as a second language.
Yeah.
You'll see people studying for citizenship. That I find is just so touching when you
There's a
see.
very active program in the library
Yeah,
for
it's
yourself.
fantastic. I think that's through Catholic Charities, if memory serves me right. Basic reading programs for children. Absolutely, I'd like to see those kinds of things expanded. That would be one example. And to the extent that we can expand the technology or at least keep it current, I think that would be very important as well, because so many of the patrons, yourself, myself, we're not necessarily going there to go through the physical stacks. We're there to utilize technological resources for research or for ordering our fiction or nonfiction. So
Yeah, I'm a big mystery reader, as my mother was before me. And when somebody says try somebody, I try them. And if I like them, I go on CW Mars for my house and I order them 2 or 3 at a time, read them, return them, get the
Absolutely.
next group. And I'm, and although I don't live in Milford, I'm actually working in Milford almost every day, and it's on my way to town hall every day. So I frequently stop there and take out or return books. It's a very
And
nice
it's
place
all
to
in
do
the
that.
same region, CW Mars
Right.
region. But I've also made, I've borrowed material outside the region. They will, in the state of Massachusetts, I mean, they dig deep for things
Yes.
when you're trying to find difficult material. And one thing I'm really excited about is now that I'm retired and at the senior center and talking to people about how they use the library, there's a book club that meets every month in the senior center, and it's very well attended. I went to the last one and enjoyed it very much. And when I ask the folks if they're using the library, they say, yeah, but I actually don't go into the building that often. I'm just downloading books
Yes.
onto my Kindle. And that's made available by the budget of the library.
Now, I didn't know if either of you knew this, but Milford Town Library, when ebooks started coming out through the CW Mars network, the Milford Town Library was one of 10 libraries in the state that piloted that.
Only 10, huh?
Well, they tried it with 10 libraries. No, there's a lot more
Those
now.
first ones,
When they
yeah.
first
Those are
brought it
first.
out, they tried it with 10 or 11 libraries across the state to get the bugs out of, if you have an Apple device versus an Android device, or this versus that. But the Milford Town Library is one of the initial 10 that tried it and got the bugs out of it. So it's
Great.
kind of at the forefront of things.
Wow, that's fantastic. I did not know that.
And they just introduced a new program called Libby app. And I just tried it today. And it's another way of getting electronic books.
Don't know that one.
It's brand new, really. It just they have the cards all over the place. I said, "Whoa, look at this! I'm going to give it a try," and I downloaded 2 books. I think I'm only going to read one. I'll return the other.
What libraries have you accessed outside of Worcester County and Points West? I'm
it goes-
fascinated by that. If you could get something out of the BPL, for example, that would be.
Oh, I get things
that would
out
be
of
great.
Worcester. I get things out of South Hadley and Chicopee.
Yeah, they're
and-
all in Central
They're all
Mass.
in Central Mass, but
There are 3 or 4 other library networks in the state, and I believe, I might be wrong, if you go into the Milford Town Library, they can connect to those. You may not be able to from home, but they can interconnect with them
Okay.
Yeah.
and look for things, including the State House Library.
And there's some things that you do have to go into the library for like that. The one thing that I really like is Ancestry.com. Anybody who does genealogy, I have the software at home, but the monthly subscription is prohibitively expensive.
It's
But I
about
can go into the
$300 a
library.
year.
Oh, it's amazing. And I'll go in and look up things, and I'm hooked up to them as if I had my own subscription, but it's the library's. Wonderful resource.
Didn't know if you knew, but your library director is a extraordinarily talented genealogist
I think,
who,
yeah,
who
Sue.
finds people's connections that nobody else can find. She seems to be able to find long-lost connections by
Really?
looking across databases.
Maybe I can ask her to find one of my
Well, that's her hobby. So.
branches. The other thing I want to mention that I want to do, it's sort of a personal goal of mine. It's been on my mind over a period of years. I like to be very active in organizations, nonprofits, and what have you. And they always need people to write grants. There's a lot of money out there. And I see the silly projects that are being done by government and federal grants at the state and national level. I just get crazy. And I actually went to American Library Association website and found 5 pages of grants that are out there. I mean, it's still competitive, but if you don't ask, you don't get it. And I'm looking forward to getting more involved in grant writing. I've done a little bit in the past, but I think that this would be a really great place for me to do that.
Wow. Money.
Money. Well, money's the basis, and then we have a great staff, so we want to keep them happy so that they stay, and they have over the years. It's like a family, as you know. I mean, it's,
Very little turnover there.
and the friends of the library do a great job as well. I'm a member of the Friends. I'm sure you're a member of the Friends, and they
Yeah,
have
make sure
some
I paid my
fantastic
dues.
programs. He's going to write a check. I don't know. No. Oh, I know you are. And they have the extra programming in the rooms downstairs, and I've been to many of those. They have 2 fantastic book sales every year. So there's, like you say, there's so much activity. It's a really great thing to be a part of.
There's a question. You know, a lot of people, and we go through this in Upton, I don't know about Mendon, just updated their library, but a lot of people in Upton say libraries, as we see them today, the configuration of a library today is going to change in the future. Books are not going to be as important. People can get stuff online. Have any feeling on that?
I think that the configuration will change as people's needs change. For example, I think that books are still terribly important, but a certain percentage of them are coming out in e-books that saves some money and resources and so forth. But also, there's more material that libraries can rent out, not rent out, to lend out. For example, games for kids, video games.
Telescope.
Sorry?
You have a telescope there.
Telescope. The telescope is fantastic. I've been on that waiting list for a while, and then when my name finally came up, we were out of town, so I couldn't get it. Like, oh well. Another thing they rented out, which was pretty cool, was an electronic meter, or electrical meter, that you could plug into your devices in your house and your electrical outlets to make sure you're getting a proper or strong enough electrical current. And if you're not, I mean, it affects the efficiency of your house and so forth. We tried it, but in our place, if we plugged it in and pulled it out, then the whole electrical socket was pulling out of the wall. So we decided not to continue. But that has been popular, I know. So there's going to be different materials that the library is going to be providing. Perhaps more of them will be online, with less going to books. I think less is going to periodicals, because those aren't what they used to be. And newspapers are different. You know, now they're online. There's probably not too many come out on Fiche these days. I don't know if they do.
They're all on, yeah.
I know the Friends of the Library support the Fiche, the microfiche program. I think they support the whole thing. They've done fantastic work. I think their services were over like $13,000 back to the library last year. So the Friends are fantastic. It becomes a meeting place for the community. It will change. The configuration will change.
Marco, your thoughts on that? Or?
Well, yes. I think it is what's going to happen is the medium, or the media, whichever, whether it's the written word, the paper, electronic, video, etc. It's going to evolve. And the job of the library is going to be to stay current. If it doesn't, it won't survive. I mean, that's just a matter of necessity. For myself, call me old-fashioned, still like the feel of paper in my hand, and I still listen to vinyl LPs. So,
well, they're coming back. So.
Well,
No, there's a reason why they're coming back,
yeah,
but that's a whole nother story.
but it goes to the quality of the experience. And if you have a book in your hand and you're able to turn the page, it's a tactile experience, I guess. It's an added dimension. So it's the same thing as listening to an album.
Well, there's some technical reasons why albums are coming from.
Different analogy.
Right.
Analogy is never accurate, but
I agree with you. I'd rather hold it in my hand.
yeah.
It's funny, when I have the GPS on in the car, my kids will look at the visual and I'm looking at the written word on top. And they always say, just look at the arrow. And I know I can't. I have to look at the word. It's generational, but I'm sorry.
No, I agree with everything Margaret said in terms of the necessity of the library as an institution to adapt and evolve with the technology. It's a necessity.
What is the role of a trustee? I think trustee is a funny word. I'm thinking the people tend to figure out what people do, like the park commissioners oversee the parks, but how much hands-on things do trustees do in a library? Or are you more like a board of directors governing it, and the staff takes care of it? Or are you really in the weeds with the staff doing things?
Well, it depends on the issue that's involved. I mean, a trustee is a fiduciary. You have a duty to the patrons who are the beneficiaries of the trust. The citizenship of Milford, the people that use the library, as a trustee, you have a duty to them to make sure that the library is run in an efficient fashion, professional fashion, that it responds to the needs of the community, and it does so in a manner that will, in the most economic fashion possible, benefit the community. To the extent you may or may not need to get directly involved, it depends on the issue. I mean, you have a experienced, talented, and very professional library director who will be able to deal with a great deal of those issues, whatever they may be. And you're certainly going to be relying upon the director and the staff work in a cooperative fashion to try and address any of those issues that may arise.
Okay.
So for all intents and purposes, you represent the voters. You're elected by the voters, and you represent the voters to manage and run the library.
Essentially, yes.
Okay, just like the Board of Selectmen are elected to manage and run the town of Milford, you're elected by the voters to manage and run the library. Now, you have a staff that reports to you. Who hires and fires the librarian?
Who hires and fires
Yeah,
the
who's
The director.
director?
the director? Who hires and fires the director?
You guys do.
We do.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you, for all intents and purposes, are the managing authority of the library.
Yes, except I would want to avoid the word managing the library. I picture it more hands-off, because if you hire the right person, you have
Well,
the
that's
best
a management,
person.
that's a management style, but the responsibility for a successful library rests on the trustees.
Yes, but
You know, it's funny, I kind of agree with you there with regard to the term management. You know, we can certainly it's a semantic one, but.
Board of directors,
No, well,
would that be a better term versus,
yeah, maybe.
No,
you know,
I-
overseeing a CEO, if you want to put it in
no,
corporate
I mean,
terms?
again, I don't want to put it in corporate terms because, yeah.
Different, it's a
It is.
different-
You're dealing with a trust, you're dealing with
And
beneficiaries.
it's hard to describe, but even the
Well-
selectmen, I was going to say, have a town manager running things day to day, or a town administrator.
On the state Board of Library Commissioners has a website, and there's actually a manual out there on how to be a library trustee. And there's certain things that are kind of defined, like you have to develop the budget, you know. But basically, the director does it, and we try to help, or you know, it's like, oh, is that going to work? And we'll get it to town meeting and so forth, or into the, you know, the FinCom.
Well, she develops a budget, that I would guess, the director does, but when all the smoke clears, the responsibility
Yes.
for that budget falls on the
On the
trustees.
trustees.
Sure. Well, again, work with the finance committee to get
Correct.
that, yeah.
Correct. So, for all intents and purposes, the finance committee, that's a whole nother story.
That's another layer of the onion. Sure.
Onion, yeah, and interesting enough, people don't understand, are not familiar with what the legislative requirements of a finance committee is. It's
Bear
very-
in mind, Al, that under Milford's bylaws, the finance committee is different than any other city or town you've ever been to.
Okay.
It
But-
has special powers in Milford that no other city or town's
Which is
finance committee
interesting, which
has.
doesn't surprise me. But one of
And
the
they use them.
Yeah, yeah. But one of the good things is that Milford is a very well-run town, probably one of the best-run towns in
Yeah.
the state. So, and that's because of the finance committee does a good job, and the board of selectmen do a good job,
They
and
do a great job.
the library trustees do a good job. So the town of Milford is blessed with people who are successful, generally successful managers of the responsibilities that they're given by the voters. So when I say that the board of trustees, the responsibility is to manage the library in such a manner that's successful and provide services to the public or your constituents, that's essentially what you do. Now, the style you do it with is a whole nother level of stuff. I mean, my suspicion is that you're more of a overseer, a much more soft approach to that management than a dictatorial.
Are you speaking to me personally?
No, I'm talking about
Yeah,
library trustees.
That's the better
think-
way to go,
yeah.
for sure. I mean, we're not professional librarians. They have master's degrees. They know what they're doing, and so let them do what they do best.
Right.
I also want to say that I think a job of a library trustee is to be, advocate, be a cheerleader. Talk to the community about the library. How's it going? Have you used it? What can, what do you want? What do you need? Go. Get people to use it if they haven't. We have a lot of traffic, so that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
But it also, with the knowledge of library management and so forth, just seeing it happen, and then going to these outreach programs where you learn from other libraries, or you talk to your legislators, or you talk to town meeting members, or write your national congressman, that it becomes a process, and a process of advocacy and communication.
Yeah, I personally see it as the equivalent of being on a school committee. Different thing that you're managing, but the same responsibilities. Policy, hiring, firing the director, budget responsibilities. It's very
Policy, for
similar.
sure.
The same
Yes.
kind of things.
Yes.
You're not the professional. You're the people that hire the professional,
Yes,
and
indeed.
measures the success and failure of that professional. So you're the overseers of it, but it's just very similar to being on a school committee. I mean, it's, and Milford has a very successful library, so, I mean, it's a very positive
I
thing.
think library trustee would be more fun than school committee.
That could very well be.
Exposed to much more fun things.
Yeah, no, I think being a library trustee would be a fun thing to do because people come there because they want to.
Yes.
You know, there's no such thing as truancy in a library.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of traffic. It's fun to see. It's good. Different ages.
I think it must be challenging, though, when you
Oh, yeah.
realize that, you know, the schools serve K to 12, a library serves toddler.
One to
Well, I was going to say,
99.
Birth to death.
well, a little bit more,
Yeah.
early reading age to whenever. It must be very hard to serve so many generations of the public in one facility.
Yeah, I mean, for example, in older people, you'd have to make sure that it's handicapped accessible, that
Large print.
which, yeah, I mean, you'd have to have that, and we wouldn't. On the lower age groups and the school kids coming and going, there's concerns for safety, but we wouldn't want the safety barriers to interrupt any accessibility.
There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle
There
that are the responsibility of the library trustees to take those global things into account.
Yeah, to your point, Kevin, I think for 2013, 14, there was somewhere in the area of 4,300 students in the Milford
Yes.
system, from
Yeah.
pre-K all the way to high school.
I mean, and
So-
anyone could tell you that when Stacy across the street lets out, that
It's
library
wild.
is,
Oh,
for
yeah.
want of a better term, inundated.
Yeah, it gets a little loud.
That's fun. That's a great thing. What better
it's-
place to have a library than across from a school?
I don't argue with you.
I mean,
there.
that's
And a block
stupendous.
from the youth center.
Right, I
And-
mean-
And it's kind of a little stretch of buildings there from the youth center and
The
the
complex.
Yeah.
Memorial.
Campus.
Memorial and Stacy, the youth center on one side, the library on the other, and they sort of go that way into them.
Yeah, so it's a fun thing. I mean, I can appreciate it would be fun to be involved and engaged in that piece of it. I mean, it's just very positive. Reading and education and access to information and, just fantastic.
A good public library is one of the best resources a community can have.
I
Because it
would
serves all of
absolutely
those
agree.
Absolutely.
populations.
Quite a responsibility being a library trustee, relatively speaking.
But it's not scary because it's a good team effort.
Well, scary is a relative term.
Well, we've got a few seconds left. I'd like to offer you a chance, each of you separately, to appeal to the voters on whether they should vote for you. Margaret, we started with you last time, so we'll start with Margaret this time.
Your elevator speech.
My elevator speech
Here's your
is,
chance to talk directly to the voters.
the
Why
joke
should they
is
vote for you on April 3rd?
my name is easy to remember. It's Margaret Myatt in Milford, Massachusetts.
3 M's.
M to the 4th. And so you don't have to carry my brochure.
M to the 4th,
But
that's good.
you would want to vote for me because I'm going to support the library to the fullest capabilities. I have the time, I have enthusiasm. I'm a library groupie from day one, and Milford has a great library, and I want to keep it that way.
And Marco?
Thank you. If you want someone that's going to be quietly competent to fill the role of a trustee and allow the people that run the day-to-day operation of that library to continue doing their jobs, then I'm your candidate.
Well, thank you guys
Thank
very
you.
much. We wish you luck, both of you luck
Good
on
luck.
April 3rd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll also close off, as our colleague at Milford TV, Crier, always does. Please come out and vote on April 3rd.